Welcome to Teacher Talk, Episode 4. My name is Carol Richards, and we're doing these group sessions about pedagogy on behalf of eacme.org. So if you would like to know more, come and visit us. Today we are joined by Robyn Staveley, a well-known music educator and or practitioner who has only recently just finished her PhD. Well done, Robyn. Her research, which I think you'll find interesting, is focused on the impact of embodied cognition and cognitive neuroscience on music pedagogy. So Robyn, my first question is, what is embodied cognition?
Embodied cognition is the science that describes how cognition, or thinking, understanding, knowledge, arises out of interaction between the body, the brain, and the world. So every time we go out into the world, and that means the environment wherever we are, we encounter things that have an effect on us. So, for example, we might be walking on rocky ground. So that ground would make us walk a different way. So our bodies respond, and when our bodies respond, it tells the brain what to do. And there's this constant looping between the body and the brain and how it responds to the environment. When I think of the body, the brain, and the world, I think of them all combined, where it's all one, because without the world, the body would have nothing to respond to. And without any responses from the body, the brain doesn't receive any messages, and that's how the brain changes.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, except I remember my schooling, and I sat in a chair a lot and wrote things, and there was very little movement. What does sitting in a chair do to teach the body and the brain?
Very little. Well, you can learn some things from sitting in a chair, and especially if you have lots of background experiences to draw on. But if you're learning something new, if you don't move, you're not going to learn very much. And moving isn't just doing a dance or doing some movement like a gesture. It's much more than that. Just moving your head to face a different direction gives you a new perspective on what's in the world and gives you a new way to think. So when you move, you have to think about why you're doing it, and you have to respond to something. So there's so many more processes going on than if you just listened to information or someone told you the answer. When your body goes through the actions of solving a problem or meeting a challenge or putting the effort into doing something, the body is telling the brain what to do to solve this problem, how it interacts with the world, what it needs in the world to make sense and make meaning from what's happening.
How did you come about to choose this particular area for your research, given that you've taught music with different groups for a very long time?
Well, look, I always had this feeling that movement was really important. And that was based on all of my experience with children, and adults and babies, because I've taught in schools and community centres and all sorts of places and universities. And you find that when people move, one of the things that happens is they're much more enlivened, they're much happier, they want to go for longer. And when your body's involved, you sustain attention for a lot longer. And I just noticed that they were more involved in their learning, much more likely to learn from others, to collaborate, to construct learning, and feel a lot happier. So once I noticed that, it seemed more important, but I had nothing to base it on apart from my own teaching. And when you want to prove to somebody else, like the parents or your principal, that what we're doing is important, they might just say, oh, it just looks like you're playing, or it's just doing a lot of fun stuff. And it is fun because you always enjoy it more when you're involved, but it's more than that. So I needed to go further. I needed to find the science, if there was science, around to show that movement is important. And there is a lot in science, embodied cognition science, and also neuroscience, that tells us how important it is to move, to learn. And the smallest sort of movement is just from one neuron to another when you're thinking. And so it's just a small movement, and that's important. Thinking is important because that accesses all the past memories that you have about those experiences, and that lights up all those networks that were involved in that experience.
Well, we have some video footage of Mandy, a friend who is a librarian. She's not a music teacher, and she runs some storybook sessions at the Melton Library. And Mandy likes to involve children by using some music, some singing, and some activities. So I wonder if we can watch this little video and you can kind of clue us in to how this fits in with your research.
So when you watch Mandy teach, have a look at what her body is doing, what her face is doing, and what her hands are doing. Because the brain takes a lot of notice of facial expressions, because facial expressions help you understand the intention behind what someone else is saying and gives more to the message. So Mandy does this really well. When you're looking at a video of someone doing something really well, you get carried away with the story. So that's why I'm saying watch like a teacher. What is she doing that enhances the message, that draws attention, that draws other people in?
If I were an animal, which one would I be? Would I stalk through a jungle or sing from a tree? Would I live in the mountains or underneath the sea? If I were an animal, which one would I be? Which animal would you like to be? Would you like to stalk through the jungle? Can you do some stalking?
Well, that was very interesting, Robyn. What do you make of that?
Mandy uses her facial expressions so beautifully. She just invites you in straight away. And I know what happens in the brain when we see that. We use this very special system called the mirror neuron system. It recognizes facial expressions. So it understands when you're giving an expression that invites people in, and it understands when there's danger. But everything about her face was saying, this is happy, this is making you feel what I want you to think about. And she used her hands very expressively too, when she was doing this snarling sort of, or the creeping sort of movements. In the brains of the children who will be watching, that would be happening because they can do that. And whatever is within their movement repertoire would be replaying in their brains, giving more meaning to whatever message she was hoping to achieve. Also in that little clip, it kept going to the pictures, so that enhances the memory. And when we see about the message, we hear about the message, we feel the movement through the mirror neuron system, we see the expression on the faces. This all enhances the memory and enhances the meaning because we've got more ways of knowing the same idea.
That's so fascinating. Robyn, we've only just had a very tiny introduction to the work that you've done, which is so important for teachers to understand. So I'm wondering, can we invite you back to give us some more information and show us some more videos and help us to become better at using good pedagogy?
Sure, that would be fun.
Fantastic, everyone. So the next time we'll have Robyn back and we'll continue our discussion about cognitive embodiment and neuroscience and what we can do as teachers to be better teachers and to help children towards better learning.